And hello again out there in Radio Land, and welcome to another Hollywood Today show. I'm your host, Brad Evans, and joining me in the studios, as usual, is Mr. Tim Sember, and we have a special guest with us today. Today, our guest is the star of the TNT hit series Major Crimes. Please welcome to the show, actor Phillip Keene. Phillip, how you doing, my friend?
Pretty well, Brad. How about yourself?
Doing great, doing great. Well, congratulations on another cool show, another hit show that you're on, Major Crimes. Why don't you tell everybody out there a little bit about your Buzz Watson?
Well, Buzz Watson is a civilian techie working for the police department. He is an officer of the police, yet not a police officer. So he carries a badge, but not a gun. And the only thing he shoots is film in his camera. Kind of a cool thing about that for me is that oftentimes the producers will use the footage that I take and incorporate it into the actual show. So the audience is getting a special point of view from my perspective, in that I'm not a professional cameraman, but they do use some of my footage. So whenever they use the buzz cam, as it's called, that's actually me shooting that.
Oh, okay. That's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, as we talked before the show, your first big major role was the closer, which that's
right.
That's pretty big to have such a hit show. So I mean,
It's a
how did that
huge
come
thing.
about?
Well, I had friends who were in the business, producers and writers, and people of that ilk. And a good friend of mine who also happens to be my manager encouraged me to start taking acting classes and scene study and things while I was going to college. And this opportunity presented itself. Greer Shepard and one of our first ADs, who's now director on our show, David McWhirter, came to me and said, "Hey, we've got this little part on the show, and if you're decent, we'll keep you. If you're no good, we're going to get rid of you." And here I am 10 years later, and the role's gotten bigger, and I'm still here, so I'm loving it.
Yeah, I mean, how cool to be playing, like I said, the same character, Buzz Watson, that this is actually your show Major Crimes now is a spinoff of The Closer. So,
Yeah,
well, I would say, explain how that came about. I mean, obviously, The Closer was a huge, huge show. You guys were nominated for and won a SAG award, and Kira said, "Look, you guys did an amazing job." So obviously, the fan base was there. So obviously, they just started with a new series with a lot of the same characters.
Yeah, the show did so well, even after Kira had fulfilled all her contractual obligations. I think she was a little tired in that, she'd been playing the same character for 7.5 years, and at one point she had the largest speaking role on television. So, kudos to her for her fantastic work ethic and all the great stuff that she provided for us. She gave us a great vehicle to launch into this new show, Major Crimes, because everybody fell in love with the character so much they were willing to stay on with us. And, we're starting our third season this year, which is pretty fantastic. It's almost 10 years in now, which is great.
Wow. Oh, that's good. Can I ask a question then, Phillip?
Sure.
How did you prepare for these roles? You did The Closer, now you're doing Major Crimes. How do you get yourself prepared for that?
Well, I actually, when the show first started, I went over to our editing department and sat and talked with a few of the editors, because they're working similar consoles that Buzz was working in the beginning, and just try to get a feel for them and what their job entailed. And then I talked to one of our consulting producers, who's now one of our writers, retired Detective Mike Burcham. He worked robbery homicide for LAPD for 20 years, and asked him some questions as far as who Buzz would report to, what his actual position was in the force he belonged to, because he's not a police officer, but he is contracted, has been assigned to this Major Crimes division of the LAPD. He actually works for Scientific Investigation Division, and his skills are with the camera. So he lived basically with this foster family in Major Crimes. So those are the people that I talked to, just kind of get a little background on the character and what he might be like.
Oh, okay.
Now, you went to UCLA and studied history.
History and art history.
And art history, yeah, I see that. So what got you into acting? Did you take an acting class there?
I had always wanted to do this. In high school, I was involved in the drama department, and it had always been a love of mine. But I started working full-time when I was 12, and so by the time I graduated high school, I was already out in the workforce and didn't really have the means or the opportunity to kind of pursue that. I always had what I like to call survivor jobs, and I was just kind of making ends meet. So didn't really consider pursuing that dream until much later in life. Didn't quite have the confidence to do that. So when this opportunity presented itself, I just grabbed it. And it's been a fantastic thing ever since.
I should say.
Hmm.
Very, very, it worked out good for you. Well,
Oh, yeah.
and we had talked, you had a really cool job prior to this. You worked for Pan Am Airways.
I did.
That's really
I worked
cool.
for the company for the last 4 years that we were in existence, and got to travel over most of the world and worked with some really amazing people. Had a couple of scary instances on flight. We lost a couple of engines over the Atlantic and had to turn around. And during that time, it was a little bit like a scene from one of those Irwin Allen disaster movies where people were grabbing me in the aisle saying, "Oh my God, we're going to crash! I can't believe this is happening." And it was my job to keep everybody calm. And obviously we landed safely, and here I am still. So.
Well, I'll say, I would think that would be such a hard job because I'd be freaking out inside. You being a flight attendant is supposed to calm down the passenger. So
Exactly.
That's acting right there. That's actually where your acting started. Right?
Absolutely right. You've got to remain calm during the face of disaster. And
Right.
I'd only been flying for 6 months when this happened, so
Wow.
it was really new to me. But I wouldn't trade that for anything. I met some fantastic people and got to see a lot of the world I wouldn't otherwise have seen.
Well, that's great. Well, I have to ask, this provokes me to ask, with you being an actor and the Pan Am TV series that was out, I think it only was, a year or two, unfortunately, but did you really try hard to get on that show?
I wanted to consult on the show, but they only wanted people who flew during the 1960s. And I love seeing the image of Pan Am back up on the screen and being out in the public, but I think there were maybe too many cooks in the pot there,
Right.
And it was an expensive show to do, but I don't know, I liked it just from a nostalgia point of view.
Oh, absolutely. And from the nostalgia part, you do have a pretty cool collection. Do you still have that? A lot of the memorabilia from Pan Am, like luggage tags and uniforms?
Oh, my gosh. I've got about 3,000 pieces in my collection. And it's not just paper stuff. I've got china, actual pieces of the interior of the aircraft.
Wow.
People think I'm crazy. And my friends didn't really understand my obsession until they saw it all out on display during Modernism Week in Palm Springs in 2013. And the Saguaro Hotel was kind enough to give me a ballroom for the 10 days. And I filled it with all of my stuff, uniforms on mannequins, and just, I stayed there the whole time and just talked to anybody who would listen. It was great.
Well, it's cool, that stuff is worth something now, but even more, as time goes on. So that's a good investment to have.
Oh, even more to me, because it brings back so many memories, and the people who come in, and so many people were telling stories about their first flight and places that they'd been, and it just brings up a whole in a bygone era, that when people used to dress for flights, and it was nice to be on a plane. You look forward to the actual trip, whereas now it's not like that anymore.
I have to agree. Yeah, now everyone's wearing sandals, cut-off shirts. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
something special back in the day.
If you're lucky, yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole different era now,
Oh, definitely.
unfortunately. Well, Phil,
Yeah, it's a bus with wings anymore.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Well, Phil, before we go, I do want to get to one email. This is from Gina in Dallas, Texas. Congratulations on all your success. Is there an actor or actress that you would like to work with?
Gosh, there's so many of them, but most recently, I really admire Matthew McConaughey, and if I ever get the chance to work with this guy, he's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
That would be a dream come true. Yeah.
Yeah, he seems like a really nice guy, too.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, and I just finished watching True Detective, and boy, what an amazing job he did in that. Just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and then just won the Oscar for
sure did.
Dallas Fire stuff, too.
That's right.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good
Amazing
for him.
work there too.
Cool. Well, Philip, time is up. I want to thank you so much for hanging with Tim and I today on Hollywood Today. And we want to remind everybody to pitch your series, Major Crimes. And do you have a date and time for that?
It's going to be Monday nights as usual at 9 o'clock, and I believe we start airing in June again.
In June, for the new season.
I believe so, yeah. But
Okay.
Monday nights at 9 o'clock on TNT.
Okay, great. All right. Well, Philip, thanks, my friend, for joining us. And thank you, Tim, again. And thank you again out there
Brad,
for
Tim,
watching
thank you
us.
very much.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, until next time, take care of yourselves, keep living your dreams, and have a wonderful evening.